2:47 p.m. A sharp click echoed as the heavy glass door swung open. Security cameras instantly pivoted toward the figure stepping inside. He wore a worn grey hoodie, scuffed old sneakers, and a slouched backpack on his shoulder. In a space filled with crystal sparkle and the scent of premium leather, his presence looked like a scratch on a flawless painting. Darius King, 36 years old. But to the crowd inside Hale and Copter Luxury, he was nothing more than a stranger out of place. For a fleeting moment, every gaze drilled into him. A woman wrapped in a Hermes scarf clutched her handbag tighter. An older gentleman with silver hair frowned as though catching a strange odor. Chloe Martinez, the young sales associate who had just been smiling sweetly at a loyal customer, glanced at Darius, her expression instantly turning cold. No greeting. Not even the smallest nod. The air thickened. Then came the whisper. "Who invited him in here anyway?" A customer sneered. From the corner of the room, a phone screen lit up. The account Beverly leak had gone live. Drama's about to explode at Hale & Co. Stay tuned. Darius was not surprised. He had prepared himself for the disdainful stares. The secret experiment he had planned for 6 months was beginning today. Yet what made his heart ache was the truth. Despite years of success, all it took was simple clothing to drag him back to the same suspicious looks of the past. He walked straight to the watch counter. The chandelier light shimmered across the glass, making the Patek Philippe Nautilus models glitter like treasure. A price tag gleamed, $85,000. Darius stood still, quietly observing. Reflected in the glass was his calm face, but in his deep eyes lay an ocean of memories. He remembered the times his parents were denied service because of their skin color. He remembered doors slammed shut before he could even step through. Today he chose to enter the very place that had excluded people like him, but under a disguise no one would suspect. His phone vibrated. A message flashed. Board meeting moved to 3:15. Conforsa room B. He swiped it away, locked the screen. 13 minutes remained to complete his role. Across the room, Linda Carr, the 40-year-old store manager, whispered something to security guard Kevin Rios. Kevin, a former cop, fixed his eyes on Darius. Those eyes, trained for years to scrutinize criminals, now glared with suspicion. Darius shifted slightly, unintentionally revealing the edge of a first-class plane ticket, Tokyo, Gate 21, peeking from his pocket. No one noticed, except the live-stream audience. The first comments appeared. "What's happening here? He doesn't look like he belongs. Watch him get thrown out." Darius moved closer to the counter, his voice deep and steady. "Excuse me, I'd like to see that Nautilus model." Chloe turned, arms crossed. Her red lips curved into a faint smirk. "Are you sure, sir? These watches are not exactly ordinary." A sharp, mocking laugh cut through the silence, making several customers glance over. For a moment, Darius saw another phone flash on, someone else recording the scene. His face did not change. "I understand the value. I still want to see it." Chloe glanced at a colleague who shook their head subtly. She scoffed. "These models start at 85,000. Do you even understand what that number means?" Darius's heartbeat slowed. Every word of contempt pierced like a blade, but his face remained calm. "I understand perfectly. The number is not an issue for me." Once again, his phone buzzed. The screen lit up with the words, "Private equity partners calling." He dismissed it instantly, but Linda Carr had already caught a glimpse. Her eyes flickered, then hardened again. "Sir, perhaps you would feel more comfortable looking at our vintage collection, under 5,000. Much more suitable. Linda interrupted, her tone laced with sarcasm. In that instant, the room seemed frozen. Kevin Rios guarded the entrance, his unease growing. The live stream had surged past 200 viewers. Comments poured in. "This is clearly discrimination. Wait for the twist." Darius inhaled slowly. He recalled an old lesson. True power does not need to shout. It lies in staying calm within the storm. He placed both hands firmly on the glass counter, his gaze unwavering. "I still want to see the Nautilus, and I do not have much time." The clock ticked forward. 2:51 p.m. 9 minutes left. No one in that glittering showroom knew that the man in the worn-out hoodie was the actual owner of the building, the one who, in just a few minutes, would decide the fate of Hale & Co. itself. The crystal lights still shone down, as if mocking him. Darius stood tall, his eyes fixed on the glass counter where the Nautilus sparkled like a flame of luxury. Everything around him seemed to slow, except for the murmurs of the customers and the constant pings from the live-streaming phone. Chloe Martinez crossed her arms, raising an eyebrow. She had seen hundreds of dreamers, people who walked in just to look and then left empty-handed. To her, Darius was no different, perhaps even worse, because of the unreasonable confidence in his voice. "Are you sure, sir?" Chloe scoffed, her mocking smile unmistakable. "To even hold this watch, the deposit alone is $25,000. Her words echoed across the room. A few customers chuckled quietly. Comments on the live stream flooded in. "Oh my God, look at them humiliating him. This is about to blow up." Darius remained silent for a beat. Then he turned to Linda Carr, the manager standing rigid like a judge. "Then I will place the deposit, right now. Do you want cash or a wire transfer?" The atmosphere froze. Linda hesitated, her eyes flickering. She was used to seeing people retreat the moment they heard that amount. But the man before her remained calm, his tone as if discussing a cup of coffee rather than tens of thousands of dollars. "Do you actually have that kind of money?" Linda asked, her voice betraying doubt. Darius nodded. He pulled out his wallet, a thin piece of finely stitched leather. Inside, a black metal card slid out, cold and heavy. He placed it on the glass. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Chloe picked up the card, its unusual weight wiping the smirk off her face. The embossed name gleamed. Darius A. King. A few customers moved closer, staring. Their phones were raised higher. The live stream viewership surged past 800. Comments exploded. "A black card. Oh my God, they messed up. The plot twist is coming." While Chloe took the card to swipe, Kevin Rios, the security guard, stepped closer to Linda. He lowered his voice. "I'm not sure this is right. This man is too calm. He doesn't look like trouble." Linda frowned. She had managed this store for 15 years. She trusted her instinct to separate real customers from fakes. But deep inside, unease began to creep in. "Kevin, hold your position." "Don't let this get out of control," Linda replied, trying to reassure herself more than him. Back with Darius, he checked the time. 2:55 p.m. 5 minutes left. Time was racing like an arrow. He knew every gaze, every phone pointed at him would serve as evidence, and that was exactly what he wanted. Chloe returned, her face pale. "So the system is requesting additional verification." Darius nodded slightly. "Large transactions often do. I can call the bank," Linda cut in, her tone urgent. "Perhaps you should reschedule. Next week, maybe. We cannot proceed today." Darius lifted his head, his eyes deep. "I only have 5 minutes. Either you show me, or I walk out." His words thundered. The live stream had surpassed 4,000 viewers. The comments burned like fire. Throwing him out. Not fair. Keep filming. Keep filming. Linda felt her face flush. To give in would mean admitting she was wrong, but to remain firm meant risking escalation. In a split second, she chose stubbornness. "Sir, I must ask you to leave the store. You are making the other customers uncomfortable." A wave of whispers rose. Several customers shook their heads. A young woman, about 25, stepped forward. "He hasn't done anything wrong." "Why not let him see a watch?" Linda snapped back sharply. "Please do not interfere with the store's security matters." The air was about to explode. Kevin moved closer to Darius, his voice low. "Sir, I have to ask you to step outside." Darius turned, locking eyes with Kevin. His calm gaze held no anger. Yet it made Kevin falter. "And what reason will you use?" "I only asked to view merchandise in an open store." 2:59 p.m. Just 1 minute left. Darius breathed slowly, like a predator waiting for the precise moment. He pulled out his phone, typing a short message. "Ready for 3 p.m. meeting. See you upstairs." Linda eyed him, frowning. "Upstairs? There's nothing above here except storage offices." Darius smiled faintly, his eyes flashing cold. "Thank you for the lesson in customer service. It was very valuable." A series of phone alerts erupted. Linda glanced down. Her screen blinked with an email. "Emergency board meeting, 3:00 Maha PM Conference Room B, the sender, Darius A. King, CEO of King Capital Partners." She froze, her hand trembling. Chloe, still holding the black card, suddenly felt it as heavy as stone. The customers around them gaped in shock. The live stream skyrocketed to 12,000 viewers, the comments going wild. "Oh my God, he's the CEO! They just kicked out the owner of their building!" Darius turned and pushed the glass door open. The sharp click rang out again, but this time the atmosphere inside was completely different. A suffocating silence remained, broken only by the pounding hearts of those who had just buried their own careers. Outside, he strode straight to the elevator, pressing the button for a floor most Hale & Cumber's employees had never set foot on. The executive floor. The steel doors closed, his reflection staring back. No longer the man in a worn-out hoodie, but the one holding the power to decide the fate of an empire. Wozuwas. 1 p.m. The performance had only just begun. The elevator doors closed, reflecting Darius King's composed face, while below, chaos erupted. Linda Carr stood frozen, eyes fixed on her phone screen, where the words, "Emergency Board Meeting 3 p.m. glowed, each letter carving like a knife into her 15-year career. Chloe Martinez trembled, the black metal card heavy in her hand like a stone tied to her conscience. The name on the card, Darius A. King, now ringing in her head, alongside the roar of live stream comments. CEO. That building's owner. Instant karma. The live stream had passed 15,000 viewers, and with every passing minute the number climbed exponentially, the people inside the store unwitting witnesses to a real-life drama whose reveal would change everything. Upstairs, the elevator stopped at the executive floor, the doors opening onto a hall carpeted in grey luxury. There was no whispering now, no scrutinizing stares, only the hush of power. Darius walked straight to the meeting room with the gold-plated plaque. Conference Room B. Natural light poured through the large windows onto the long walnut table. 3 large screens flickered to life, and faces appeared almost at once. "Darius," a female voice said from the central screen. "Elaine Chu, 45, General Counsel of King Capital Partners, eyes sharp, smile austere. I watched the entire live stream, invaluable footage." The second screen showed Victor Nguyen. 42, head of retail operations, shaking his head, face strained. In 30 years of management, I have never seen discrimination so blatant. They shot themselves in the foot. The third screen revealed a sun-weathered face, creased by the sea. Gregory Hale, 58, founder of Hale & Comber Luxury, calling from a yacht off Monaco, looking bewildered, eyes full of panic. Darius, why did you not reveal your identity from the start? We could have avoided all this. Darius pulled out a chair and sat. He opened his laptop and typed quickly, his voice calm and steely. Avoided. Gregory, do you think an introduction can erase 15 years of discriminatory culture in this store? They needed to expose their true nature, and today they did so, in front of tens of thousands. He clicked. The first slide appeared, Hale & Comber's customer service report, 6-month undercover audit. He flipped to the next slide where charts appeared. Complaints of discriminatory conduct increased 340% over the past year. Customers of color reported negative experiences 87% higher than white customers. Elaine steepled her fingers. With these figures, Gregory, your store faces class action risk. Federal civil rights law allows fines up to $150,000 per incident. And according to our records, there are 23 documented incidents. Today's event is number 24. Gregory's eyes widened. 24. Impossible. All of this is captured on your own security cameras, Darius replied evenly. And he clicked. The screen shifted to footage from months prior. An Asian man denied a look at an engagement ring. A black woman asked to prove finances before trying a handbag. A Latino couple completely ignored. Each clip drained more color from Gregory's face. He gripped the yacht rail as the sea breeze no longer felt pleasant. And today, the incident was live-streamed. Darius continued without looking away from the screen. It has now reached over 20,000 live viewers. Comments flooded with the hashtag #HailKarma. Within an hour, your reputation has been destroyed before the world. Victor interjected. Darius, what about the lease? Darius nodded and hit another button. The slide displayed clause 14. 3. Discriminatory practices equals immediate lease termination. Darius looked up, his voice resonant. King Capital Partners completed purchase of this building at 5 p.m. yesterday, which means, as of this morning, Hale & Comber is leasing the premises from us. Gregory gaped. My God, Elaine added coldly. That also means legal liability for your staff's conduct today falls directly on us as property owners. Therefore, we reserve the right to intervene immediately. Darius rose and walked to the window, looking down at Rodeo Drive, where the crowd began to gather outside the boutique. Faces pressed to the glass, phones raised, the news turning this place into a public stage. He turned back and his voice filled the room. So, Gregory, we have 3 options. The new slide displayed. 1. Terminate the lease immediately and close Hale & Co. Within 30 days. 2. Sue, a 2-year public legal battle. Or 3. Full reform, change management, mandatory training, public reporting, and a $100,000 donation to civil rights organizations. The boardroom was silent. The Monaco waves could not drown Gregory Hale's racing heart. The choice is yours, Darius said in a cold tone. But only one option can salvage the remaining reputation of Hale & Co. Elaine added, Gregory, if you choose option 3, we will oversee the entire process. But remember, this is not simply about money. It is about whether you are willing to face the truth. Victor, stern-eyed, added, you can continue to deny it. But the data, the videos, the live stream, they are all against you. Gregory swallowed hard, his voice cracking smaller than ever. If If I choose reform, what happens immediately? Darius returned to the table and sat slowly. Hands folded, he looked straight into the screen. First, we will sign legally binding documents. And immediately after, those who disrespected me today, Linda Carr, Chloe Martinez, will face consequences. His eyes flashed. The real storm was about to begin. The wall clock struck 3:47 p.m. as the electronic signatures appeared one after another on the screen. Elaine Chu, Victor Nguyen, and finally, the trembling line of Gregory Hale. The agreement for complete reform officially took effect, and in that moment, the fate of everyone on the ground floor began to shift. In the Hale & Comber boutique, Linda Carr sat in the small manager's office at the back, the muffled noise from the lobby seeping through, while in her hand was her phone. A notification flashed across the screen, effective immediately, employment terminated, due to documented discriminatory conduct. A cold, concise sentence, sharp as a blade. She read it over and over, her vision blurring. 15 years of dedication, hundreds of sleepless nights covering shifts, all of it ended in 15 minutes of misjudgment and a single merciless email. Her head fell onto the desk, hands trembling, the scent of luxury perfumes around her suddenly suffocating, bitter proof of her downfall. In the staff lounge, Chloe Martinez clutched her phone, the message glaring back. Mandatory suspension, without pay. Completion of 40-hour bias awareness training required. Each word struck like a whip. Tears streamed down her once proud face as she remembered her mocking smile at Darius, the snickers from customers when she humiliated him. Now every detail had become a mirror, exposing her own folly. On the live stream, viewers who had not yet logged off continued to flood the chat. That saleswoman is done. Instant karma. Chloe curled into a corner, her heart constricting. Never had she felt so small. Just meters away, security guard Kevin Rios stared grimly at his own phone. The message read, formal, written warning. 20-hour conflict resolution training required within 30 days. He exhaled heavily. In his years as a police officer, he had witnessed countless acts of discrimination, and rarely had he been able to stop them. Today his instincts told him Darius was no threat, yet he had obeyed orders. The calm, piercing look Darius gave him before leaving still haunted him. Kevin raised his head toward the lobby where phones remained aloft, live stream still rolling, and in the public eye, he was no different than an accomplice. At 3:52 p.m., a black SUV pulled up outside the store, and a woman in a sharp blue suit stepped out with authority. Dr. Maya Bennett, 46, diversity and inclusion consultant, once a federal civil rights investigator, now the enforcer for King Capital Partners. Maya strode into the lobby, her voice ringing clear. From this moment, I oversee the reform here. Customers parted, employees froze. She pulled out a series of small devices, customer feedback tablets, placing them at each counter. Screens lit up with a simple question. Do you feel welcomed? Curious shoppers tapped their responses. The results appeared instantly. 8 out of 12 rated the service below average, with comments reading, "Staff distracted, unfocused. The atmosphere is tense. Cold, undeniable data. Each response a mirror exposing the truth Hale and Cupsis had long tried to conceal. By 4:15 p.m., while Maya deployed oversight tools, Darius's legal team had notified 3 major civil rights organizations, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, ACLU Southern California, and the Anti-Defamation League. Their detailed report outlined the incident and pledged an immediate donation of $100,000 along with a mandatory training plan. Each organization confirmed its involvement, turning Hale & Coder's into a case study of forced reform. News spread fast. On Twitter, Hail Karma climbed to the top 3 trends in Los Angeles, and local TV stations broke in with headlines: "Luxury boutique accused of discrimination. Building's CEO intervenes directly." At 4:45 p.m. in the boardroom upstairs, Darius monitored the updates, a large screen glowing red with social media charts showing tens of thousands of shares in just 2 hours. Elaine Chu spoke firmly. Today's evidence could fuel lawsuits worth millions, but with reform chosen, we remain in control. Victor Nguyen added. Not only in control, but turning crisis into opportunity. If implemented right, Hale & Kausga could become a new standard in the industry. Darius sat silently, hands clasped, recalling the scornful eyes of Linda and Chloe when he first walked in. Deep inside, the wound was still raw, yet he chose to turn that pain into a tool for change. "We are not just fixing one store," he said slowly. "We are rewriting the rules for an entire industry." At 5:00 p.m., an emergency meeting gathered all remaining staff in the grand lobby, the chandelier light cascading over anxious faces. Darius entered. No worn hoodie, no faded backpack, but a black suit, silver tie, the presence of a CEO undeniable. Employees murmured. Some lowered their heads, others stared in fear. "I am Darius King, CEO of King Capital Partners," his voice thundered. "We now own this building, and after today's events, we will carry out a complete reform." His gaze swept the room. "From now on, every customer who walks through these doors will be welcomed with respect. No discrimination, no assumptions, no prejudice. You will be measured by transparent data, and the results of each of you will directly shape your careers." No one dared breathe. Among them, Natalie Pierce, 32, a quiet sales associate, clenched her fists, hope rising inside her. Finally, real effort might be recognized, no longer overshadowed by arrogant colleagues. Darius concluded with conviction, "This is not punishment. This is opportunity. Those who embrace change will rise. Those who resist will bury themselves." In the corner, Maya Bennett observed and wrote quickly. Staff reactions mixed. Shock, fear, some hope. Atmosphere suitable for reconstruction. Outside, crowds still pressed to the glass, live streams rolling, but the narrative had shifted, viewers typing. The CEO took immediate action. This is true leadership. By 6 p.m., the boutique doors opened to the press. A sudden briefing arranged. On the large screen, Gregory Hale appeared from his yacht, weary, eyes downcast. "I take full responsibility," he said, voice breaking. "Hale & Cosette has failed to treat customers fairly, and we pledge to change starting today." Darius stepped forward under the flash of cameras. Standing tall, King Capital Partners will ensure this reform process is implemented transparently. Every step will be made public. No one excluded. No one disrespected. This is not just business. This is dignity. The words thundered, mingling with the clicks of shutters. That very night, headlines spread. Undercover CEO experiment forces luxury boutique into complete reform. And in that moment, everyone understood the storm had shifted. No longer destruction, but a cleansing, rain-washing Hale & Cobst facade, preparing it for a new dawn. At 5:30 p.m., as the sunset poured over Rodeo Drive, Hale & Cobst opened its doors to a new guest. This time, none of the staff knew she was part of a new experiment orchestrated directly by Darius King. A young woman walked in, Talia Brooks, 24 years old. She wore old jeans, a simple shirt, and a faded backpack. No diamond ring, no designer handbag, just the ordinary appearance of a student. But to Darius, Talia was the first mystery shopper. the one who would test whether his reform orders were truly being carried out. As soon as Talia crossed the threshold, the chandelier light spilled onto her, recreating the exact scene Darius had faced only hours earlier. Yet this time, there was no sneer, no contemptuous glance. Natalie Pierce, 32, a sales associate long overlooked, stepped forward quickly. Her smile was warm, her eyes bright with welcome. "Good afternoon. So glad to see you at Hale & Co. Are you looking for anything special today?" Talia hesitated for a moment, remembering Darius's words. Just act natural. Let them reveal themselves. She smiled. "I just want to browse. Nothing in particular." "Wonderful. Let me show you around," Natalie replied, her tone professional. The scene unfolded calmly. Natalie introduced each product, explained details about materials and brand history, even carefully slipped on white gloves so Talia could try on a silver necklace. Not a single question about budget or ability to pay. In the corner, Dr. Maya Bennett observed through the newly installed surveillance cameras, noting, "Interaction natural, no discrimination." Positive point. After 20 minutes, Talia left. Before stepping out, she stopped at the feedback kiosk. The screen displayed 3 questions. 1. Did you feel welcomed? Talia selected, "Very much." 2. Was the service professional? She selected, "Excellent." 3. Would you recommend this store to friends? She tapped, "Yes." The total score appeared, 4.5 out of 5 stars. The data instantly appeared on the large screen in the upstairs boardroom. Darius saw the number, the corner of his mouth curving. It was only the beginning, but enough to prove that change could happen instantly if the will was strong enough. At 6 p.m., the joint press conference between Darius and Gregory Hale began in the opulent showroom. Dozens of reporters crowded in, cameras fixed on the stage. Gregory appeared on the big screen from his yacht, his face gaunt, his voice strained. "I take full responsibility. This store has failed to serve every customer fairly, and from today, we commit to complete reform." Darius stood beside the podium, flashes firing relentlessly. His voice boomed. "King Capital Partners will oversee every step, every piece of feedback, every training session, every staffing decision will be made public. Transparency is the foundation of trust, and trust is the foundation of business." The words echoed across the room. Reporters scribbled frantically. The live stream on social media hit 50,000 live viewers. A journalist asked, "Mr. King, why choose reform instead of closing the store immediately?" Darius looked straight into the camera. "Because destroying is easy, rebuilding is hard. But that difficulty is worth it, because it brings real change." By 7 p.m., as the media lights dimmed, the feedback tablets had gathered more data from evening customers. Average score, 4.2 out of 5. Comments. The staff was very welcoming. I felt respected. On Twitter, a new post from the account Beverly Leak, the one who had live-streamed the entire incident, spread quickly. Update: CEO officially reforms Hale & Co. This is the right way to handle a crisis. Thousands of shares followed, and the media narrative shifted. If the afternoon had been a disaster, the evening had become a story of accountability and transformation. In the staff lounge, Natalie sat down, exhausted, but relieved. She recalled Darius's gaze during the employee meeting, stern yet filled with hope. For the first time, she felt her real effort was being recognized. In another corner, Chloe Martinez sat curled up, listening to colleagues talk about customers praising Natalie, her heart tightening. Part of it was jealousy, but more was regret. If only she had offered a genuine smile that day. At 8 p.m. upstairs, Darius met with Elaine and Victor over video. Charts appeared showing positive feedback rising. The news was spreading, but the tone of coverage had shifted. Elaine said, "We have turned the incident into a textbook example of reform, but it must be sustained. I will send the formal agreements to the 3 civil rights organizations tonight." Victor nodded. "I will prepare the 40-hour training program to begin next week." Darius looked at them both, his voice deep. "Good. But remember, this is not just a strategy to save a brand. This is proof that fairness can be measured, and it pays dividends." By 9 p.m., the boutique had quieted, but in the dark, tens of thousands of phones still glowed. The video of the afternoon incident had surpassed 100,000 views on TikTok. The hashtag #HailKarma remained in the top 3. One comment stood out. They judged a man by his old hoodie. Little did they know he was the building's owner. The truth had become a moral story debated by millions. That night, Linda Carr sat alone in her small apartment, the termination email still open on her screen, the television broadcasting news about her. But this time, she was only the former Hale & Cumber's manager, dismissed for discriminating against customers. Tears streamed down, mingling with bitter regret. Elsewhere, Darius sat by the window of a high-rise, gazing down at the traffic on Rodeo Drive. He sipped black coffee, hearing his father's words from long ago. "Do not let their contempt turn you into someone vengeful. Turn it into strength to make change." He smiled faintly. The first step was complete, but the journey ahead was long. Night fell over Los Angeles. Hale & Co., once arrogant, once closed to countless customers, was now entering a new era. And it all began with a worn-out hoodie, a black metal card, and the unshakable patience of a man who knew his true worth. Tomorrow, the story would no longer be about a discrimination scandal, but about a journey of reform, a journey Darius King had ignited in the heart of Rodeo Drive. The next morning, golden sunlight spilled over Rodeo Drive, glinting off the glass facade of the Hale & Cumber boutique. If last night the store had been flooded with cameras, today it felt like a social experiment waiting to be tested. In the staff room, Dr. Maya Bennett raised the reform plan high, her voice clear and resolute. "From today, every process will change. Every interaction, every greeting, every smile will be monitored, measured, and publicly reported." The employees sat in silence, their faces still shadowed by yesterday's fear. Natalie Pierce clutched the edge of her blouse, a strange fire burning inside her, part nervousness, part determination. This was her chance to prove her true ability. At 9 a.m., the feedback kiosks lit up in unison, the first question appearing, "Were you welcomed the moment you walked in?" The first customer of the day was a middle-aged Asian man in a simple shirt, his eyes cautious, perhaps recalling the viral video from the night before. But this time, Natalie stepped forward quickly, bowing slightly. "Good morning. So glad to welcome you." Her smile was enough to ease his doubts. 15 minutes later, he left, tapping into the kiosk. "Very satisfied. I will return." Score: 5 out of 5. Upstairs, Darius watched the real-time dashboard, green numbers rising across the screen, the morning's average satisfaction at 4.6 out of 5. He nodded, pride flickering in his eyes. Meanwhile, Chloe Martinez sat in her first online bias training session, part of the 40 required hours. On screen, the instructor replayed videos of her from the day before, arms crossed, lips curled, spitting out condescension. "This," the instructor said sternly, "is the textbook example of microaggression, behavior that seems harmless, but humiliates and excludes customers." Chloe bowed her head, each frame replaying like a mirror of truth. Tears dripped onto her keyboard, and for the first time she admitted, "I was wrong, so wrong that it cannot be undone, unless I change." By 11 a.m., a group of tourists from New York entered, diverse in skin tones, clothing, and style. This was the real test of the new system. Natalie and 2 other associates immediately fanned out, greeting each guest. Every step followed the new procedures Darius had mandated. No assumptions, no subtle checks, no budget questions before the customer spoke. The group left with shopping bags in hand, laughing. One turned toward the in-store live stream camera. I felt respected. This is the new Hale & Co's online comments exploded. They really changed. This CEO is serious. The kiosk registered 4.8 out of 5. In the upstairs office, Victor Nguyen presented to Darius, the chart glowing. Here is the comparison data. Before the incident, the average satisfaction was 2.7 out of 5. Today, after just one morning, it has jumped to nearly 4.7. Darius was silent for a moment before replying, "This is only day 1. The real challenge is sustaining it for 30 days, 90 days, and beyond." He walked to the window, looking down at the crowd still gathered, many snapping photos of the store. Once a symbol of exclusion, Hale & Co. had now become a magnet of curiosity and hope. In the afternoon, more data streamed in. A black woman in her 50s entered, wearing a simple work dress and carrying a cloth bag. In the past, she would have been an instant target of judgment. But today, Natalie approached warmly. "Good afternoon. May I help you find something you like?" The woman froze, her eyes welling up. "Thank you, this is the first time I've walked into this store without being doubted." That short reply carried the weight of truth, a living testament to change. The kiosk read, "Felt respected. Score, 5 out of 5. In the back office, Linda Carr quietly packed her belongings. She had received her termination notice yesterday, but only found the courage to return this morning. Each photo frame and porcelain coffee cup reminded her of the years she had devoted. But Linda knew it was over. She remembered the disdainful glare she had given Darius in his worn hoodie. Now, that image had become the full stop to her career. One question echoed in her mind. Why couldn't I have just chosen kindness, even once? By 6 p.m., the upstairs boardroom glowed again. Darius, Elaine Chu, and Victor Nguyen sat before the large screen, where the chart displayed Day 1. Average satisfaction, 4.5 out of 5. Elaine spoke. "This is persuasive evidence for the media. If maintained for 30 days, Hale & Co. will not only escape scandal, but become a model." Victor added, "The staff are beginning to realize their success is tied directly to fairness." Darius nodded. He closed his eyes for a moment, recalling the weary eyes of his parents after countless times of being refused service. Now he felt he was rewriting that story with a different ending. "This is only the first day," he said slowly. "Tomorrow we continue, and each day after, until every gaze toward Hale & Co. sees only respect." Night fell over Los Angeles. Under the neon glow, the Hale & Co.'s boutique sparkled as always. But inside, the air was transformed. Genuine smiles replaced contempt, friendly greetings replaced sneers, and online, Beverly Leak's video passed 200,000 views. But this time, the comments were not only outrage, but also hope. If one store can change, then the whole industry can too. Day 5 after the incident, Rodeo Drive still glittered under the California sun. But inside Hale & Co., the atmosphere had changed. Posters of the new code of conduct hung in every corner. Every customer will be welcomed as a VIP. No assumptions. no discrimination. Dr. Maya Bennett reviewed the central dashboard, the chart showing satisfaction scores holding steady at 4.6 out of 5, with negative feedback dropping to a record low. She turned to the staff. "This is not a short-term exercise. This is the new standard. If you maintain it, you will prove to the world that Hale & Co. has truly changed." Day 10. The 40-hour training entered its most grueling phase. On screen, the footage of Chloe Martinez from that day replayed again. She sat in the classroom, her face burning. I thought I was just testing the customer," Chloe said, her voice trembling. "But looking back, I see it was arrogance. I was wrong." The instructor nodded. "Mistakes can be corrected, but only if you turn this shame into the motivation to serve better." For the first time, a spark of determination lit in Chloe's eyes. Day 15, a diverse group of mystery shoppers arrived. A Latino teenager in an oversized hoodie, a white businesswoman in a sharp suit, and an older black man wearing sandals. Each was greeted with the same smile, no mocking questions, no scrutinizing stares. Natalie Pierce guided the man in sandals all the way to the high-end counter, patiently introducing each item as though he were a billionaire in disguise. The kiosk registered 4.09 out of 5. Comment: "For the first time, I felt I truly belonged here." The data streamed directly onto the screen in Darius's office. He sat still, pride glimmering in his deep eyes. Day 20. The media had fully shifted tone. CNN aired a report, Hale & Co., from discrimination scandal to symbol of reform. The footage of Darius in his black suit played repeatedly, the anchor concluding, "This is proof that fairness is not only morally right, but also economically effective." On social media, the hashtag #HaleKarma gave way to #HaleReform. People no longer discussed humiliation, but a unique model of transformation. Day 25, Linda Carr sat in her small suburban apartment, watching that news on television. She had been shut out of the luxury industry, no store daring to hire her back. Bitterness surged, but beneath it came a sobering clarity. She whispered to herself, "If only I had chosen respect that day, everything could have been different." Linda opened her laptop and began typing the first lines of a memoir. 15 minutes lost, 15 years. Day 28, in the grand boardroom, Victor Nguyen presented a preliminary report. This month's revenue rose 12% compared to last month, despite only 1 week of reform. Customers are returning, especially those who were excluded before. Elaine Chu added calmly, "From a legal standpoint, civil rights organizations have recognized our commitment. The class action lawsuit has been officially withdrawn as long as we sustain the results." Darius nodded, his eyes drifting toward the window. Below, the boutique glowed with light, bustling with customers. A faint smile crossed his lips. Everything is moving in the right direction. Day 30, a special event was held in the showroom, the first meeting of the Community Advisory Council. Around the table sat diverse faces. Dr. Layla Thompson, 50, local NAACP president, a representative of the Latin Business Association, and a young Asian student. They listened to reports, reviewed data, and questioned the staff. Natalie stood to speak, her voice trembling but resolute. "I have witnessed this store change day by day, and I believe this change is real, not a facade." "Doctor," Layla nodded, her gaze stern yet warm. "If that is true, Hale & Co. will not only survive, it will become proof that a business can choose fairness and still thrive." The meeting closed with applause. Darius stepped outside, the crimson sunset spilling across his face. He remembered the moment exactly a month ago, when he walked in wearing a worn hoodie. The contempt he endured then was still etched in memory, but now he had turned it into the catalyst for an unprecedented reform. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "This is only the beginning." Day 45, the atmosphere inside Hale & Coppitor was nothing like that chaotic first day. The employees who remained had grown used to greeting customers with smiles, meeting their eyes openly, and never again judging anyone by the clothes they wore. Natalie Pierce was no longer the overlooked associate lost in the background. She had become the new face of the store, consistently earning glowing feedback from clients. In an internal meeting, Maya Bennett read the results aloud. "Natalie, your average service score is 4.9 out of 5. Congratulations." Applause filled the room. Natalie blushed, her eyes brimming with tears. Deep down, she knew she had crossed a milestone, from invisible to living proof of change. Day 60, Chloe Martinez completed her final training session. Over 40 hours, she had confronted countless scenarios, learned to recognize unconscious bias, and practiced the right way to respond to every type of customer. That day, Chloe stepped out of the training room, her face drawn, but her gaze steady. She wrote in her journal, "I once believed I was the center, and that customers had to prove their worth. But now I understand. It is my service that proves the value of the store. I will start again, if given the chance." That chance came quickly. Victor Nguyen announced, "Chloe will return to work, but under supervision. She will face a 3-month trial with strict KPIs. If she meets the standard, she may even earn a promotion." Natalie glanced at Chloe, and in her eyes there was no contempt, only empathy. Chloe nodded softly, a wordless apology. Day 70. News of Hale & Coppitor spread beyond Los Angeles. The New York Times ran a feature, "From discrimination scandal to model of luxury reform." The article broke down the numbers in detail, satisfaction rising from 2.7 to 4.6. Revenue up 18% in 2 months, returning customers up 31%. Experts called it the King effect, the ability to turn crisis into a driver of growth. Day 75, Chloe returned to the sales floor for the first time in 2 months. She wore a simple black suit, her hair tied back neatly. A young customer walked in, hoodie loose, backpack frayed. In the past, Chloe would have smirked. Today, she smiled sincerely. "Hello, how may I help you today?" The young man looked surprised, then smiled back. "Just browsing, thanks." Chloe patiently accompanied him, introducing each product without asking about his budget, without sizing him up. When he left, the kiosk read 5 out of 5. Staff was friendly and professional. Chloe drew a deep breath, a gentle smile spreading across her face. For the first time in months, her heart felt light. Day 80, the Community Advisory Council held its second meeting. Dr. Layla Thompson pointed to the chart. Latin and Asian customers now make up over 30% of revenue. "This is unprecedented." A local business leader nodded. "Clearly, when you open your doors to everyone, profits open up as well." Darius King sat at the head of the table, listening intently, his eyes reflecting conviction. Fairness was not just morality. It was business strategy. Day 85, another media storm erupted, but this time it was positive. The Hale & Coppitor reform story video spread across TikTok, racking up millions of views. The before and after comparisons stunned everyone. Before, Linda with folded arms, Chloe smirking, customers pushed out. After, Natalie smiling, Chloe serving attentively, customers of all backgrounds leaving with shopping bags. comments flooded in. This is real change. Respect costs nothing, but brings everything. Day 90, a special press conference was held in Los Angeles. Darius appeared in a navy suit, a calm smile on his face. He declared before hundreds of reporters, after 90 days, Hale & Co. has achieved an average satisfaction score of 4. 8 out of 5, revenue up 23%, and most importantly, not a single report of discrimination. Applause thundered. Cameras flashed non-stop. A journalist asked, "Mr. King, what is the most important lesson you have taken from these 90 days?" Darius looked straight into the lens, his voice firm. "That dignity is not a cost, it is profit. And when a business chooses fairness, the community will choose that business in return." That evening, as Rodeo Drive glowed under golden lights, Darius stood alone by the window of the high-rise. Below, customers still streamed in and out. He closed his eyes, hearing his father's voice from memory. "Son, do not fight for fairness only for yourself. Create it for the generations after you." He smiled. The 90-day journey had proven that truth, and this was only the beginning of a quiet revolution in the luxury industry. 6 months after the incident, Rodeo Drive shimmered under Christmas lights, golden strands wrapped around towering palms. Amid the festive atmosphere, Hale & Co. was no longer the boycotted boutique. Now, it was spoken of as a symbol of reform, a place where one live stream had turned disaster into legacy. From the outside, the glass still sparkled, and luxury goods still gleamed under crystal chandeliers. But inside, the spirit had changed to its core. There were no more judgmental stares when customers walked in, only welcoming smiles, whether they wore tailored suits or frayed hoodies. Natalie Pierce now carried the title of Assistant Manager of Customer Service. She was still the first to greet customers, but now the eyes of her colleagues on her were different, no longer dismissive, but filled with respect. One afternoon, Natalie guided a Latin family through the store. Their young daughter squealed at the sight of a red handbag. Natalie knelt to the child's eye level and gently explained, "This one comes in a mini version for children. I can show it to you." The mother, moved, squeezed Natalie's hand. "Thank you. This is the first time I feel my family is truly welcomed here." The kiosk lit up. 5 out of 5 felt respected and valued. Meanwhile, Chloe Martinez had not only returned, but had unexpectedly been promoted. After 3 months of strict KPI monitoring, she ranked in the top 10% for service scores across the entire system. She now held the title of Associate Manager. In a training session for new employees, Chloe stood before the class, her voice steady and deliberate. "I once made a huge mistake. I thought customers had to prove their worth. But I have learned that it is us who must prove the value of this store through the way we serve." Never forget, one condescending remark can destroy an entire career. I know this better than anyone. The young staff looked at her with a mix of admiration and caution. Chloe no longer hid her past. She turned it into a living lesson. Kevin Rios, the security guard, had also transformed. After his conflict resolution training, he had become a calm presence, skilled at diffusing rather than escalating. One evening, when 2 customers argued loudly at the jewelry counter, Kevin approached softly. "Excuse me. May we continue this conversation in a more private area?" With just a few words, the tension dissolved. One of the customers later returned to the kiosk to leave feedback. Security handled the situation very professionally. Kevin read it. A weight lifted. For the first time in years, he felt he was truly protecting fairness, not just maintaining order. Financially, Hale & Co. had recovered beyond expectations. Revenue was up 23% compared to the same period last year. More importantly, the customer base had shifted. The latest report showed 52% white customers, 23% Asian, 15% Latin, and 10% Black and other groups. The numbers nearly mirrored the demographics of Beverly Hills. What once was unthinkable had become reality. The media called it the King model. Business magazines wrote, "The King effect, turning fairness into strategy." Other luxury companies from New York to Chicago began inviting King capital partners for consultation. At Harvard Business School, Darius King's name appeared in the curriculum. His lecture was titled, "Dignity as Business Strategy." Hundreds of students crowded in, spilling into hallways. He stepped to the podium and told the story from the worn-out hoodie to the explosive revelation. They looked at my clothes and decided I was unworthy, but I saw the chance to change an entire industry. That is the difference between a rash reaction and a strategic action. The hall fell silent, then erupted in applause. Dr. Layla Thompson, in a community council meeting, said, "6 months ago, Hale & Curzon was the symbol of discrimination. Today, it stands as proof that a company can choose responsibility over defensiveness." This is a powerful message for the entire industry. As for the customers, the change touched their hearts. One African-American customer wrote at the kiosk, "I once swore I would never step into this store again. But today, I feel seen like anyone else, and I will return." Such feedback, short lines heavy with history, were now preserved in the data system. Each response was proof that the reform was not just a slogan. One late evening, Darius stood at the top floor, gazing down at the glowing boutique. In his hand was the latest report. 94% of customers rated their experience excellent or very good. He remembered the first day, walking in with worn sneakers, the sneers, the contempt. Now the same place had become proof that dignity could be protected with data, with law, and with will. He exhaled, a smile touching his lips. "This is only the beginning," he whispered. "The entire luxury industry will have to change, not just one store." 1 year after the incident, Los Angeles basked in summer sunlight as Rodeo Drive stretched bright and endless. Hale & Kojak had reached its 1-year milestone since embarking on its historic reform. Across the store's facade, a large banner swayed in the breeze. 1 year of reform, a new era of luxury. People lined up outside not only to shop, but to witness the place that was once a symbol of discrimination now stand as a symbol of reform. One store, one story, one lesson for an entire industry. In the upstairs office, Darius King sat by the window, eyes on the crowd below. On the desk lay the latest report. Customer satisfaction, 94%. Revenue growth, 31% year over year. Customer demographics now nearly identical to Beverly Hills itself. But what made him smile were not the numbers, but the feedback lines. I felt respected. For the first time, I felt I belonged here. Natalie Pierce now wore the title of Director of Customer Service. A year ago, she had been just an ordinary associate. Today, she led the entire team. At the morning meeting, Natalie stood before the new hires, her voice firm. At Hale & Co., customers are not outsiders who must prove their worth. It is we who must prove ours through absolute respect. The room was silent, then filled with nods. Natalie realized the young employees looked at her with the same admiration and eagerness to learn that she had once directed toward Darius. Chloe Martinez, too, had walked a long path, from suspension to reinstatement, and now she had officially become Director of Training and Development. Her role was to teach every new employee that fairness was a non-negotiable principle. In one training session, Chloe played an old clip, the moment she smirked at Darius in his hoodie. The class sat in breathless silence. Chloe spoke, calm and steady. "The woman in that video is me. I once thought protecting the store's prestige was enough, but in truth, I was the one damaging it. If I can change, then so can you." Applause broke out. Chloe smiled, not the forced smile of the past, but the smile of someone who had turned her mistakes into strength. Kevin Rios, once a security guard who only knew how to stand at the door, was now head of security and customer relations. He trained his team to watch without bias, to resolve conflict with calmness. In one training session, he said, "Our job is not to exclude anyone, but to ensure everyone feels equally safe." Kevin knew well that a year ago he had almost followed orders to call the police and had almost ruined his own career. Now he felt pride in being tied to a journey of rebirth. Linda Carr, the former manager, lived in another state. After the collapse of her career, she completed her memoir, 15 Minutes Lost, 15 Years, and unexpectedly became a speaker at leadership ethics conferences. In one lecture at a university, Linda confessed, "I lost everything because I could not see the person behind the hoodie. That lesson will follow me forever. Arrogance in a few minutes can destroy an entire career." The students were silent, then rose in applause. Linda knew she could never return to the past, but at least she could turn her story into a warning for the next generation. The King model, as the press called it, had spread nationwide. More than 50 luxury brands in 12 states voluntarily adopted transparent oversight systems, feedback kiosks, diverse mystery shoppers, and community advisory boards. At a retail industry conference in Chicago, Darius stood on the grand stage. Behind him, the screen lit with the words, "Dignity is profit." He spoke to thousands of business leaders. Fairness did not just save Hale & Co., it helped our business grow. When customers feel respected, they return, they spend, and they stay loyal. This is not a cost, it is a profitable investment. The entire hall rose in applause. 1 year later, Hale & Co. had not only transformed itself, it had inspired an entire industry. Business schools taught case study. Hale & Co.'s civil rights organizations held it as proof that public pressure combined with strategic intervention could create lasting reform. And for Darius, the greatest legacy was not revenue or reputation rankings. It was when he read the feedback of a 12-year-old boy after visiting with his mother. "The store is beautiful, but what I loved most was that they made my mum smile." That night, Darius stood alone at the top-floor window, gazing down at the glowing, bustling boutique. He remembered that first day, walking in with worn sneakers, meeting contemptuous stares and mocking laughs. Now, that image was history. He lifted his phone and sent a message to Elaine and Victor. "This is just the beginning. We will expand the King model nationwide." On his lips appeared a faint smile, not of victory, but of a man who knew that fairness had become a legacy, one destined to outlast even the most luxurious watch. Some stories do not end with a closed door, but instead open an entirely new era. The journey of Darius King at Hale & Coaters was exactly that. From a pair of worn sneakers and a faded hoodie, he walked into what was considered the sanctuary of the elite and was met with contempt. But instead of leaving in silence, instead of lashing out in a fleeting moment of anger, he chose to turn humiliation into an opportunity for reform. He did not seek fairness only for himself. He built an entire system, a king model, so that anyone who walked through those doors, whether white, black, Asian, Latin, or of any background, would be welcomed with the same look of respect. The question for you, the one watching this video, is this: have you ever walked into a place only to realize that others were measuring your worth by your clothes, your skin color, or your wallet? If you have, then you know how deeply that pain cuts, and Darius's story stands as proof that fairness is not something to beg for. It is something we must demand, protect, and build into systems. 1 year later, Hale & Co. is no longer a store of arrogance, but a store of transparency. More importantly, that story became a beacon for an entire industry, for dozens, even hundreds of other businesses. The lesson we take away is simple yet powerful. Dignity is not a cost, it is profit. Respect does not take anything away from you, but it can bring everything back to you. And now I want to ask you, if you were Darius on that day, what would you have done? Would you have revealed yourself immediately, or waited patiently for the right moment to turn insult into a lesson for an entire system? Share your answer in the comments, because perhaps your story could be the very spark that inspires someone else to rise, to change, and to rewrite the rules. If this story touched you, hit like to spread the message, and subscribe so you won't miss the journeys to come, where justice is not just an idea, but concrete action, recorded in numbers, in decisions, and in the stories of real people. Let us work together to make discrimination something that has no place, not only in luxury, but in every corner of life. Because in the end, the greatest legacy we can leave is not wealth or power, but the way we protected one another's dignity.